Did you guys play off of each other, supporting each other with both of your creative endeavors going on?
Well, he supported me in my music a lot. And of course, he was the one that was really making a payable career at
Mhm.
the time and continued. Music is tough. So, but he definitely always supported me. And of course, I loved what he was doing. I loved the shows and I supported him as well. He would have me read a script. If he wanted some emotion, he would have me read a script. And if I cried, they knew it was hitting the nail on the head just right.
Exploring life's journey, one story at a time. This is Trailheads with Jim Barrett.
Today, I am honored to welcome singer-songwriter Sandra Piller, an artist known for her heartfelt storytelling, warm country pop sound, and deeply authentic voice. Sandra's career spans more than 20 years of songwriting and performing live, but many listeners also know her as the widow of the late Michael Piller, the visionary writer and executive producer behind Star Trek: The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and the Next Generation feature films. Today, we'll explore Sandra's music, her creative journey, and the inspiration that continues to guide her. Thanks so much, Sandra, for joining me today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
So there was a musical moment, right, on your first meeting, Michael?
Yes, on our first date after Christmas, our first date, um, we went to an Italian restaurant, La Familia, that we always went to until it closed. And uh, we then went back to his place and he played the piano for me, a song that he had written called Illusion. He didn't sing the words. His mom put words to it, but I just heard him play the instrumental and I thought, oh, he'll play the music and I will sing.
That's awesome.
And, but it turned out he only knew how to play songs with the melodies. He wasn't an accompanist for a singer, but that's okay. His thing was really writing, scripts, but that first date was just, so touching.
Can you tell me about this picture that we're looking at?
When he was in college at UNC, on the weekends, he would drive down to Charlotte and he played piano in a steakhouse. And so that's a picture of him playing with long sideburns, and he had his mom put a set list together for him. And she did that, and she said, after that, you have to do it on your own. My mom, Sandra Giles, was an actress, in the early 50s. And her first thing that I knew of was on the Tom Duggan late night show, and she did the live commercials. She had a movie with Elvis where she had a small part in that.
Which Elvis movie was that?
It happened at the World's Fair,
Okay.
and there was a scene where he and his buddy were hitchhiking, and two girls pulled over in their convertible, and she was one of them. And they took off with their matchbook. They'd asked for a light. And the guys were just throwing their clothes into the back seat, and the girls took off. She was also had a small part in a David Niven movie called Ask Any Girl. And then she had a lot of TV parts, Small Burke's Law. She had two or three different Columbos. A.C. Lyles discovered her and put her in quite a few Westerns, pilots of things, Taxi Driver or Taxi, not the one that Robert De Niro did, but it was I have a picture of her putting on lipstick with her little yellow taxi cab, hat. My mother-in-law, Ruth Roberts, was a songwriter from the 40s to the 60s. And actually, her first recorded song was when she was only 16. And it
Wow.
was done by Johnny Long and his orchestra called Lonesome and Blue. So once I started doing country music, she gave me several of her country songs that had been cut. Jimmy Dean, The First Thing Every Morning, Patti Page, The Same Old You. And then she had a Dean Martin song called All in a Night's Work, which actually was the title song of the movie that he starred in with Shirley MacLaine. She put words to Duke Ellington's Sea Jam Blues, and
Wow.
that became Duke's Place.
Oh.
So I've covered a lot of those songs, and it's been fun.
That's great that you've carried on the legacy of the love of song, and honoring her at the same time. That's wonderful. I love hearing that.
I'm now trying to get other artists. I'd go to the cabaret convention every year and try to get her music to them. Haven't had any luck yet, but you never know.
Well, good luck. I know
Right.
that in doing my research, she also was responsible for writing some famous sports songs. Is that right?
Yes, yes. She was commissioned by the Mets when they first came to town to write a team song for them. So she wrote a song. Then they also put an ad in the paper for fans to submit songs. So she'd actually written a second song, and she submitted both of them to the contest and ended up winning first and second place.
Wow.
So the Mets took Meet the Mets, and the second song the Dodgers ended up taking called It's a Beautiful Day for a Ball Game, and they still use that.
That's fantastic. And that ties in with Michael's love of baseball too, I imagine.
Totally. Yeah, because, before television, everyone would listen on the radio. And so they always loved it. Then when it came to television, of course, they were watching it. And he even used a lot of baseball in Deep Space Nine, that opening show that.
Oh yeah.
Aggressive. Adversarial.
Competition. For fun. It's a game that Jake and I play on the holodeck. It's called baseball.
Baseball? What is this?
I was afraid you'd ask that.
Your late husband, Michael Piller, was exec producer of Star Trek The Next Generation and is very much credited with changing the course of that show. And depending on who you talk to, believe that he may very well have saved it and came along in season 3 and really turned the show around. What was that like from your chair?
We'd been watching the first and second season and we were fans. We didn't think there was really anything wrong, but we didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. Michael had been a showrunner for, started in Simon and Simon and a few other shows. And he was called by Maurice Hurley to do a rewrite on a script, which his agent said, no, don't do that. You're going backwards in career. But Michael felt he knew those characters and he decided to do it anyway. The rewrite was on a script called Evolution with the nanites and Will Crusher and the
Right.
scientist who was waiting for this big thing to happen after every 200 years. And they loved it. They said, well, it's the only thing we've got to shoot in development. A few weeks later, they called and Maurice had left the show and they asked if he would like to be the showrunner.
Wow.
And he said, well, I don't really know science fiction and space and all that. They said, don't worry about it. We want you for the human stories. So he gave it a shot. And it turns out, I think the opening of the third season was with that nanite script. He had writers that didn't know how to stay within the Roddenberry parameters they call the Roddenberry box.
Let
Got
me
it.
just speak to that for just a quick second, too. For those who may not be Trekkies, the Roddenberry box is what Michael Piller had referred to as the challenges for writers, because Roddenberry felt like we're in the future, we won't have conflict between the characters on the Enterprise. That'll come from outside. And as well, that's easier said than done. And I know that my understanding of it is that drove writers crazy. It's like, you have to have conflict for drama.
Right. And actually, when he ran up against it the first time, all the writers on staff were laughing at him because finally he got what they were worried about and having such problems with. When Ron Moore came into view with his script, The Bonding, that was the one that Michael had gone to Gene about because the little boy whose mother had been killed by the aliens had to grieve.
Right.
The aliens were the ones who felt so awful about it. They created a substitute mom for the boy. And so the boy was torn in a couple directions. Well, Michael was able to figure that out. And Gene said, okay, well, once the grieving is coming from the aliens, that's fine.
That also speaks to his discovery of Ron Moore, who came in. That was his spec script, I think. And then
Right.
Michael brought him in onto the team of staff writers. And Ron was also a game changer for the show. I think that he and Michael saw the human stories that you could really build upon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was when Michael got Paramount to let him have fans or anybody submit scripts as long as they were full scripts. And that's how he found Ron was either going to go in the Navy or get this script picked up. And sure enough, he joined Star Trek.
Wow. All the right things and people came together for that. And in no small part to Michael's being able to see that talent and bring it in and build the team. One of our favorite movies is Galaxy Quest, which sort of plays off of the idea. I mean, it's even William Shatner, I think, said, I didn't really think that was making fun of me. Tim Allen's character. It's like, well, okay, he had fun with it, obviously. But you've spent quite a lot of time at sci-fi conventions. Can you talk about your experience with that sort of interesting segment of life?
Um, well, when the movie came out, Michael thought, I don't want to see it. But our son Sean said, no, you got to see it. So we went and he loved it. It was such a hoot, you know. Yeah, it wasn't making fun. It was a spoof, you know. And we loved it. And so when I go to the conventions and people are dressed up as the different characters, it's fun. You know, oh my God, when you see people that make these costumes themselves, the Borg, oh my gosh, they're amazing.
You're there to represent a book that Michael wrote about, was it Insurrection?
Yes, yes. You know, I watched Star Trek since I was a kid with the original, but I don't know all this stuff. You know, they know like what episode and the number and blah, blah. Oh my God. Now, I did meet a young Star Trek guy when Michael had helped create a screenwriting program at his old alma mater, UNC, North Carolina. And there's an intern program, and they come out every year and have the seniors that are graduating, they come out and they work at different businesses. So I met quite a few. I even hosted one of the girls in my house once. There was one guy, sweet guy, still work with him, Braxton Rickert, and he went with me to that one. And then subsequently for 2 or 3 years before he really got a job, would go with me to the Las Vegas one. And he knows everything. Oh my gosh, so much. So people that really want to talk about that stuff, hear Braxton, talk to Braxton. He knows all that. And then
Man,
I would
music
talk
Braxton,
about,
yeah.
and I would also be having my music there in CDs. And so I just talked about the basics that I knew of Michael and then tried to get my music out there too.
So after Star Trek, I know Michael went on to other things, and that's carried on in your family. Can you tell me a little bit about what happened after Star Trek?
Sure. Well, when we got married, you know, I had 2 children. And after a few years, he wanted to adopt them. So he adopted Sean. And later, as Sean got older and he went to college, he took, you know, screenwriting and things at first at San Francisco State and then down at USC, he finished up. And when Michael left Star Trek, they formed their own company called Pillar Squared. And then later, Lloyd Segan joined them, so it was Pillar Segan. And Lloyd brought in the rights from Stephen King to do the television version of Dead Zone. And so Sean has gone on, you know, they did Dead Zone, then they did Wildfire, and the 3 of them. Then, of course, Michael got ill, and Sean and Lloyd went on to do Greek, which was actually got to shoot in town, about college students. And now Sean's up in Canada again. He's got a show called Wild Cards, and another one was Private Eyes, and now it's a spinoff, Private Eyes West, that they're shooting both of those now in Vancouver. So he's gone on and made a great success.
Small world connection here is that I had a promo company for years called Edge Creative, and one of our big launches early on was Wildfire. And so ABC Family was a big client of ours. And so we actually got to work on the launch of Wildfire. And I remember when I was reading the credits, like, oh, Michael Piller, Star Trek. And I saw Sean Piller in the list, and I wasn't familiar with him. Was that probably one of his first projects? Is those?
That was first was Dead Zone, then was Wildfire.
Okay. Because
Yeah,
I know that was Wildfire was based in, I think they shot
Albuquerque.
New Mexico.
Yeah.
And I think Deep Space Nine lead Nana Visitor was one of the leads in the show too, right?
Yes, she was. Yeah,
So
and
that
in
was
Dead
fun.
Zone was Nicole DeBoer.
Oh, right, right, because was
Yeah.
she on Voyager, or which one was
She
she?
was, on Voyager. She was a Trill taking over when one Trill died that was married to Worf.
Mhm.
Then they brought in her to take over that Trill.
Right, right. Well, that's been I love hearing about the blended family. I come from one too. Is when I was a child, my stepmom adopted my brothers and I, and then when I got married, I ended up adopting my ex-wife's two older ones, and he just turned 25. I've got
Oh.
a daughter who is 26, my son who just turned 25, and then we had one together who was 19. So together, though, my now wife, Elisa, and I have 5 kids, so
Oh my gosh.
we've got a whole American blended family there, you know?
Right, yeah, Michael and I had our daughter, Brent, together, and, yeah, so it's definitely blended.
So, do you wanna do a lightning round, Sandra?
Oh dear, okay. Sure, I'll do it.
Country or rock?
Country.
Okay.
I cross that bridge each time you cross my mind.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. What's the most interesting place you've ever traveled?
Wow. We went to France, Paris, France, and also Italy, I have to say. Both of them are like walking into history. It's just, there's so much there. It's just amazing.
What do you think is the greatest invention of all time?
Oh, wow. I guess the one I can think of that was the first one was the light bulb.
Right? Because it's good to be able to see, and the ideas, of course, come from the light bulb. That's what the light bulbs
Right.
are. If you could go back in time for a day, where and when would you go?
Oh, back in time for a day. The day I met Michael.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Because the next question is, what's your favorite memory? And I think that these
Okay.
blended together. Can you talk about a little bit that about because it was kind of an unexpected reveal, right?
Right. I was invited by my mom to a Christmas Eve party. And at this party, once you're invited, you don't have to be invited again. So she wanted me to meet someone there who was separated from his wife. And I thought, oh, he's separated from his wife. They'll probably go back in 6 months, but I'll go to the party because I know the wife. Michael was there with somebody that he was dating, at least from work. But he saw me and he started following me around the banquet table. And he said, well, I'd love to, call you after the holidays. I'm taking my mother to Mexico for the holidays. And could I call you when I get back? And I said, sure. And in my mind, I'm thinking, sure, he's taking his mom to
Right.
Mexico.
Right, right.
But actually, he did. And Cabo San Lucas. And we went there for our honeymoon and went there for several vacations. He loved that place. So, yeah.
That's a great memory. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What is a skill you would like to learn?
Um, to be more proficient at playing my ukulele. That way I can accompany myself and not just always be so dependent on a band.
When did you first learn the ukulele? How did that happen?
It was after the pandemic. Um, and I had tried guitar before. I'd tried the dobro, and a lot of it is practice, practice, practice. But the guitar with arthritis in the fingers, the guitar was just too many strings. I couldn't do it.
Who would you like to have lunch with?
Michael.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Sandra Pillar, thank you so much for this interview. I've really enjoyed hearing your story, and I look forward to hearing more of your music too, because that's as a part of just my research. I've already listened to some of it, and I love it. And you have an event coming up, I think, right, in December. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it's a fundraiser for a church in Hollywood. It's a Christmas show. I had done a previous one with them. I was the first one, actually, they did fundraising with. about 6 months ago. And after that, they said, "Oh, can you do our Christmas show?" So I have 3 other people doing it with me, Tiffany Bailey, Kimberly Scott Mosley, and Floyd Donald. And my musical director is Charlie Harrison. Some of us are doing Christmas songs everyone will recognize. Some are my mother-in-law's that they may not recognize. Some that aren't really Christmas songs, but they're inspirational. So it'll be a little different than all your Christmas carols.
That's great. Sandra Piller, thank you again so much for being so candid with me and talking about your life with Michael and your music and your moms and everything. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Well, that's it for Trailheads, and we'll see you next time.